What we're going to talk about today is blogging, a little bit about blogging in general, and then we're going to talk about 7 very specific strategies to make blogging, which is a very powerful content marketing strategy and tool, to make it work for you. The first question is, why blog? And we talked a little bit about this as we were getting started, the importance of blogging. There's a great thing, a great acronym for blog, better listings on Google. If you want search engine optimization, you need to be blogging. I just thought that that was pretty cool, so I thought I'd share that. The primary reasons to blog, first, again, search engine optimization. If you want good search engine ranking, you need to have a blog. And a WordPress blog is probably your best bet, but essentially you need a blog. There are others that work. Reputation management. Blogs give you the opportunity to tell people who you are, what you do, and combat any possible negative things that are out there online about you. Thought leadership. A blog can establish you as an expert and a thought leader in your industry and allows you to educate your customers, your client base, on what you do and what you want them to know. And blogs allow you to build an email list, because when people come on and read your blog, they're going to have an opportunity to subscribe to your email list, to your blog, to other information that you're putting out there. But the real bottom line is that a blog is, when you're blogging, you're going to be increasing sales. So, a couple of interesting statistics. 77% of internet users read blogs. So if your customers are on the internet, you need to have a blog they can read. 61% of American online consumers will make a purchase based on a recommendation they read in a blog. And 81% of American online consumers trust the information and advice that they get from blogs. Blogs are personal, and people understand that, and they're also pretty easy to respond to, so that makes them trustworthy. If you have information on your blog that isn't accurate, likely people are going to be making comments, so that information is going to get out there. So what makes a blog effective? Great content. And that's the challenge of blogging. And that's when I talk to my clients, when I talk to my friends, when I talk to people who are blogging, who are doing it successfully, who are challenged by it, it's getting the content. How do I find what to write about? How do I find the time to write? What do I put on my blog? And it is very important that when you set up your blog, that you prepare for the content, that you know how you're going to do this and you have a plan. I have seen the statistics on this and I don't remember what they are, but this incredibly high number of people will set up blogs and then nothing happens to them. Particularly executives, because they just don't have time to do it. And that's where companies like mine and people who do the kind of things that I do come in, is we help those people with their blog content. But what you're going to get today is going to tell you how you can do it yourself. So we're going to talk about 7 ways to develop great content for your blog. Answer the questions your customers are asking. This is absolutely critical on your blog. Don't tell them just what you want them to know. Certainly tell them that, but give them the information they want to know. This is particularly important if there are things that are part of your sales process that you'd rather not answer. Answer it anyway. One of the big questions is that price question. How much does it cost? People don't want to go there early on, but if you do that, if you answer the questions your customers are asking, and one of them is, how much does it cost? When they search, your blog is going to come up. A way to get these questions is to sit down with your sales team, listen to your customers, put the people in your office together in a brainstorming room and say, what are we hearing? What are the questions that we're hearing from the people in our market before they buy? And then you start writing blogs that answer those questions. And remember that if people are asking these questions of your sales team, of you, when they're talking to you, they're probably typing that same phrase into Google when they're doing research. So if the question is, how much does it cost? If the question is, should I have a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA? Think about what your customers are asking. Write blogs that not only answer those questions, but ask the question. I'm going to go back to the how much does it cost question. You don't have to specifically answer the question. For example, a question that I get asked a lot is, how much does it cost to have you write a book for me? Or how much does it cost to have you blog for me? I'm not going to answer that right out of the gate, and I'm certainly not going to answer that on my blog. But I do have a blog entry that says, how much does it cost to hire a ghostwriter? And I give ranges. So you can write a blog that says, how much does it cost? It depends. And then you talk about the variables of what it depends on. So answer the questions your customers are asking on your blog. Number 2, build an editorial calendar. This is the infrastructure that's going to keep you on track. If you just set up a blog and say, well, I'm going to blog and I'm going to throw up a blog once a week, and maybe you've set your publication day as Tuesday and Monday night comes along and you don't have your blog written and you're saying, what am I going to write about? Build an editorial calendar, and that's going to keep you on track. It's going to let you plan what you're going to do. It's going to make sure that you take advantage of seasonal things that affect your business and affect your customers, and lets you communicate with them in a very personal and thoughtful way. So build this editorial calendar, plan it out at least 6 months in advance. A year in advance is better. Another thing it will let you do is plan series, because you want to keep your blogs, most of the time you're going to want to keep them relatively short. And if you have a complex subject that you want to address, you can do it in a 3 or a 4-part blog. Get that on a calendar so that you know it's coming and you can tease for it and plan around it and get your readers expecting that information. Do comparisons. This kind of loops back to the answer the questions that your customers are asking. Do comparisons. If your clients are asking to compare this and that, even if the that is your competitor, go ahead and blog about it. Mention your competitors by name. Your clients know who they are anyway. And that's what they're searching on, going back to the search engine thing. So go ahead and do comparisons on your blog about, you might even want to do a comparison that compares 2 of your competitors and you stay out of it. Be sure and be honest. And that kind of, but go ahead and compare things. Write about what's wrong with your industry and how to fix it. This is another issue that a lot of people tend to shy away with. We talked earlier about, don't talk about politics, religion, and sex. People don't want to be viewed as a naysayer and a doomsdayer, and that because we're taught to be positive in our selling and that kind of thing. So do this in a positive way. But understand again that the people who are searching for the information that you can provide that's going to open the door for you to sell to them, they're thinking about what's wrong with our industry and how do I fix it. If you build pools, let's talk about what's wrong with the pool building industry and how can it be fixed, and then you're going to show how you provide the solution. Again, don't be hugely negative, don't attack. Do it in a positive way, But be honest about it. This is a problem. Here's the answer. Number 5, create an idea file and make notes as you go along. Carry that idea file with you. I happen to use Google Apps for my to-do list, for my calendar, for all of that. So I keep a file in my Google Apps that's blog ideas because, and I think most people are like me, you get the idea, it's a fabulous idea, and if you don't write it down right then, it's gone. A kind of an aside tip here, I keep a dry erase marker in the bathroom, and I write on the mirror with it, because again, if my hands are wet and an idea comes to me, I don't care if I get the dry erase marker wet, and you can write on the mirror and it wipes right off as soon as you've transferred it to a permanent place, so that you have it to make, to record those fabulous ideas as soon as you get them so that you don't lose them. And then sit down with your editorial calendar and say, when will this idea work best? In February, you might have been thinking about something that happened over Christmas. You want to blog about it. You don't need to blog about it until November, but get it on your editorial calendar so you'll remember it. Number 6, curate content. This is a great technique for populating your blog. What curating content means is that you read other blogs and you share the content on the other blogs with your readers. Now, this does not mean plagiarize. When you curate content effectively, you're going to read another blog and write a paragraph or so about what that blog said, and then you create a blog post that says, I read Jacquelyn Lynn's blog on blogging, and I thought it was very interesting, and I think you'll benefit from reading it because of this. One of the things that I will do frequently and I push it out through social media and sometimes on my blog, and it's a curating technique. I'll say, I read this blog and it's got 10 tips for doing thus and such, and my favorite was tip number 3 that said this, and here's the link to the full article. What's your favorite, or do you have anything to add to the list, or that kind of thing? When you curate content, a couple of things you want to be very cautious about. Again, don't copy the content itself, because that is plagiarism, and Google doesn't like a lot of duplicate content. So when you copy the content more than a sentence or two, even when you're giving credit, you're damaging the other blogger, because Google's going to see that duplicate content, and it's going to work against both of you. But when you put the link in there, then you go to that other site and say, this was such a great blog, I blogged about it on my blog, and you backlink to your blog, and you're going to get some linking traffic going on there. And I'm not the SEO expert, but I know that those backlinking and that spider web of links is something that Google and Bing and the other search engines all love, because it boosts your credibility. It says you've got readers. It says you're respected. So curating content, you could, on your editorial calendar, schedule one blog a month, or I have seen some bloggers, and I think these people who do this have much bigger staffs than certainly I do, where you can put out one a week that says, here's the top 10 articles that I found this week that address a particular topic. And you put all the links, you do a couple of sentences, and it's a great tool for sharing information with your audience. And people will come to look for that, because then they don't have to go do all that searching on their own. Invite guest bloggers. This is another great technique for populating your blog. You don't have to write the whole thing. People will, once you get a blog out there, people will contact you asking if they can guest blog for you. Now, those particular requests, I'm going to say approach very cautiously, because more often than not, they're going to have some backlinks in those articles that you may not want on your site. But if you know professionals who have compatible information with your blog, ask them if they'd like to write an article for you.
We can monitor it.
And you can certainly monitor. Yes, I mean, if you're going to invite guest bloggers, you make sure that they understand that their material is subject to editing, and you're going to manage the links. The advantage of guest bloggers is that when they have their blog on your site, they're going to go out and push it to their audience. I have a blog on this site, go read it. And then you're getting that additional traffic to your site, and if your blog is set up so that with the, a sidebar letting people subscribe, offering a subscription incentive, all of this other marketing things that you want to get on your blog, that you're going to benefit from that. But as an example, if you've got a general, if your blog addresses different business issues, you go to Alan and say, hey, would you like to do a guest blog on angel funding, general marketing, whatever? I think he'd say, sure. Can I link back to my website? Of course you can. And then he's providing the content for you. Again, you need to have some parameters, and you need to make it clear, because you want original content. Remembering the search engines don't like the duplicate content, and people have to be willing to take the time to write quality material for you, which is one of the reasons that you have to be cautious if a total stranger approaches you and says, I'd like to guest blog for you, I'd like to provide content for your blog. Those people are typically working with what they call link farms, and you don't want their material on your blog. So those are the 7 tips for creating great blog content, and we have a bonus tip. Format your blogs for easy reading and eye appeal. This is absolutely critical. One of my favorite blogs for content is the absolute worst for eye appeal. And if I didn't know how good her content was, I wouldn't read this blog, because the type is small, it's a gray type on a white background, it's hard to read, there's no images, there's long paragraphs, it really is a physical effort to read it. And we live in, we've gotten so used to billboards, and that's the kind of thing that you want to think about when you're structuring your blog. You also want to think about who your audience is. And one thing I have noticed, the younger designers, the 20-somethings, they love, for example, the light-colored text on a dark background because it's jazzy and sexy and all of that. It's also very hard, especially for our middle-aged eyes, to read. But I think even younger people have a hard time reading that stuff. It's just that the designers are thinking flash and jazz, and the content people are saying, but wait a minute, I can't read that. I don't know what it says. So there's some rules of thumb are your paragraphs shouldn't be more than on average 3 lines long. Your sentences shouldn't be more than 14 words long. Use a lot of bullet points and lists. And even an article on your blog where if you were doing it in print, your paragraph in print might be 150, 200 words. Break it apart in your blog, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of editorial sense, break it apart anyway. The statistic is that 94% of your potential readers will leave your site without reading it due to design elements. So it's not enough to have great content. You've got to present it visually so that people will want to stay with it.
Another statistic I heard was that they'll make that decision in about 6 seconds.
They do. Yeah. So you need to once you've come up with your fabulous content, take a look at it and make sure that it's got some eye appeal to it.
Do comparisons.
Yes. Answer the questions. Build an editorial calendar. Do comparisons. And by the way, your comparisons can be all kinds of things. Just think about the things your customers are comparing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a direct thing in relation to your sales effort if it is at least in some way connected to your business. You know, Alan, the mattresses could be pillow top versus not pillow top. Well, that would be directly related to mattresses,
Foam
but
versus-
or you know, single-sided versus flip, that kind of thing. But yeah, write about what's wrong with your industry and how to fix it. Create the idea file and keep it with you. Curate. And invite guest bloggers.